in there with Chimaev, having seen what Chimaev can do once he gets his hands on him, and he will, because he shoots from so far away, and he commits wholeheartedly, and he will get you to the mat. It's what happens after. Seeing that he has the cardio to be able to do that for 5 rounds as well, mate, it's gun to my head. Chimaev's.
Are you giving him a chance here against Khamzat? Like, we saw some pretty good wrestling takedown defense against Hernandez.
No, I'm not giving him a chance. You know, Hernandez and Khamzat are completely different levels of grapplers and the way they approach their strategy. So I think Khamzat's going to take him down and submit him. You know, obviously, you know, Schmo went and watched them spar back at Extreme Couture a couple years ago, and he pretty much said like it wasn't competitive. Khamzat was just taking him down and submitting him. So I expect that same game plan. He's not going to be stupid and strike with Sean, you know, and make it a kickboxing fight. He's just going to make it straight grappling, and you know, I think he's going to put Strickland in some really bad positions and either submit.
Time is running out, and the anticipation surrounding Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland has reached a fever pitch unlike anything we've witnessed before. This matchup transcends ordinary competition, presenting a collision between unrelenting force and raw intensity. Analysts find themselves split down the middle, with predictions remaining murky at best. Yet once that octagon gate closes, a single critical question emerges. Can pandemonium triumph over discipline? Let's dive into the breakdown.
Yeah, I think, honestly, you know, if you were to ask me before the Fluffy fight,
Yeah.
I would have said there's no way. I think Sean's great, but you know, he's just going to be another victim for Khamzat. But after watching him fight Fluffy up close and personal, again, cage side, man, I think Sean could pull this off, man. I'm actually thinking if that Sean Strickland shows up, I think he pulls this off, man. I think he defends a couple shots. He will get taken down, but I think he gets back to his feet. And then if he can get his jab going, his jab and those teep kicks going, because what Sean does well naturally is already a good defense towards a guy like Khamzat. And it's not like he's got to do anything different. Just what he does good naturally is already a good start for beating a guy like Khamzat. So him adding on to that, I think, man, if the guy who fought Fluffy shows.
During Khamzat Chimaev's training session under Khalil Roundtree Jr., Chael Sonnen observed what appeared less like collaborative sparring and more like complete domination flowing in one direction. Sonnen painted a picture of Khalil appearing shaken and disoriented, potentially overwhelmed by the psychological and emotional weight of the grueling preparation extending far beyond mere physical exhaustion. Taking a wider view of the sport's landscape, Sonnen proposed that today's elite fighters might possess lethal capabilities when climbing weight divisions, yet frequently struggle with maintaining composure during defensive moments or strategic withdrawals.
So when Khalil comes out and he's got Chimaev's nuts all over his chin, it's when I'm watching it, it's like, wow, he must have really got his ass kicked. And that must have really been a beating to have Khalil come out and speaking that way. But is it true? The champion of every weight class in the UFC right now, if they moved up, would still be champion. The champion at every weight class of the UFC right now, if they moved down, would no longer be champion. Think about that.
Building on this concept, Chael questioned whether Khalil's visible distress stemmed from Khamzat representing something exceptional, or whether this reaction highlighted a widespread pattern across mixed martial arts competition. His argument centered on champions facing their most dangerous threats, not from fighters in higher divisions, but from elite competitors climbing up from below. Drawing parallels through examples like Khamzat challenging Islam and Islam facing Ilya, Chael illustrated how smaller, exceptionally skilled adversaries often pose the most significant dangers to reigning champions.
Is Khalil right? Is Chimaev that great, or is just every guy from down a weight class? Right? If you want to know the hardest opponent you could possibly find, Khamzat Chimaev, it is actually not Alex Pereira. That's a wonderful match. You'd make a bunch of money if you were the promoter. But the hardest fight would be Islam. The hardest fight for everybody is the top guy from one weight class down. The hardest fight for Islam would be Ilya. And you could just keep on playing. It never goes away. And I appreciate the respect that Khalil showed to Chimaev.
Chael concluded by circling back to his central thesis about whether Khamzat's widespread acclaim reflects genuine merit or simply represents political dynamics involving cross-divisional matchmaking. He theorized that Khalil, given proper circumstances and opportunities, could achieve similar elevation in status and earn comparable respect from heavyweight competitors. From Chael's perspective, this entire situation revolves more around calculated positioning than authentic competition. The most formidable obstacles don't emerge from same-division rivals or even those ranked higher, but from elite fighters positioned just below seeking faster, hungrier, and more desperate paths to triumph.
I believe that Khalil could go up to heavyweight and he would have those heavyweights paying him the same compliments that he's paying Chimaev. So are the compliments fair? Yeah, sure, that's Khalil's opinion. But is it because Chimaev is so good, or is it just because he's the champion from one weight class down? I suppose we wouldn't know. But the hardest guy to face is not the guy in your weight.
Sean Strickland appears to be rolling the dice with his verbal warfare strategy, attempting to penetrate Khamzat Chimaev's mental armor through provocative psychological tactics. MMA Guru highlighted how Strickland might be deliberately targeting the same emotionally driven version of Chimaev, who battled Gilbert Burns, a fighter whose performances blazed with intensity but occasionally sacrificed tactical precision. This approach carries substantial risk, potentially transforming their encounter into pure bedlam and unpredictable violence, or simply confirming that genuine hatred fuels their rivalry.
Strickland's getting real creative with it, guys, okay? He's going to say some things that are a little bit more on the nose and a little bit more blunt. But Strickland's been using, different methods here to get into the head of Khamzat Chimaev, and maybe it could work. The last time we saw Khamzat Chimaev truly emotional building up to a fight was against Gilbert Burns. He was angry, he was slamming the desk at the press conference, and it became more of a brawl. Maybe that's what Strickland's attempting here.
Dine Thomas experienced a complete perspective shift after witnessing Strickland's performance against Hernandez in person, admitting he would have automatically favored anyone except Khamzat before that revelation. Thomas now genuinely believes Sean possesses legitimate winning potential, explaining that while Khamzat might succeed in securing takedowns, Sean's remarkable recovery abilities, mental composure, and dependable jabbing combined with strategic front kicks should effectively neutralize Khamzat's pressure-centric approach. These factors, Thomas argues, could present serious complications for Chimaev's typical game plan.
Yeah, I think, honestly, if you were to ask me before the Fluffy fight,
Yeah.
I would have said there's no way. I think Sean's great, but he's just going to be another victim for Khamzat. But after watching him fight Fluffy up close and personal, again, cage side, man, I think Sean could pull this off, man. I'm actually thinking if that Sean Strickland shows up, I think he pulls this off, man. I think he defends a couple shots. He will get taken down, but I think he gets back to his feet. And then if he can get his jab going, his jab and those teep kicks going, because what Sean does well naturally is already a good defense towards a guy like Khamzat. And it's not like he's got to do anything different. Just what he does good naturally is already a good start for beating a guy like Khamzat. So him adding on to that, I think, man, the guy who fought Fluffy shows.
Benel Darius frames this confrontation as an intricate strategic battle unfolding in real-time competition, predicting Khamzat Chimaev will explode forward aggressively during opening rounds, leveraging overwhelming pressure to seize immediate control and psychological advantage. Nevertheless, Darius acknowledges potential momentum shifts, recognizing Sean Strickland possesses the mental fortitude to absorb early punishment while systematically building offensive rhythm and confidence as rounds progress. This dynamic creates fascinating possibilities for how their styles might interact over 5 grueling rounds.
Khamzat is a very tall task, very difficult to deal with. I think we're looking at like round 1, round 2, Khamzat being very dominant. But I also think there's a world where, all of a sudden things don't go so well because, man, Sean can wrestle. And all of a sudden, round 2, Sean's defending. Round 3, round 2, round 3, Sean starts to defend, kind of finds his place, and he starts to take over the rounds. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. But I would definitely lean towards Khamzat in the first couple of rounds, and then maybe Sean's able to make a comeback. It's a tough fight for Sean for sure, but Sean's familiar with tough fights and stepping up into these positions.
Robert Whittaker maintains realistic expectations regarding Sean Strickland's recent success while acknowledging legitimate reasons for optimism, yet views this upcoming championship clash as inherently unpredictable and chaotic by nature. Despite Strickland's improved defensive capabilities, Whittaker emphasizes that grappling expertise varies dramatically across competitive tiers and opposition quality. Drawing from personal octagon experience against Khamzat, Whittaker believes Chimaev's overwhelming physical strength and positional control operate on a completely different plane compared to Strickland's recent opposition, representing a massive step up in competition level.
I definitely think he has an argument now, especially because he's beaten Imavov and because of the way he put away Fluffy. But honestly, it's anybody's guess. You know, it's anybody's guess. The title fights and like contenders and that whole conversation is just so, random sometimes.
I mean, I know you've been in there with Khamzat, man, and Sean Strickland's taking defense is pretty good, but we haven't seen him in there against, like, would you say Fluffy and Khamzat, it's two different levels when it comes to the grappling, would you say, like in terms of the way, the strength and yeah.
Absolute night and day. Like, having been in there with Chimaev and seen, and everyone who saw what he did to Drickus, like, there's not, mate, like there's...
Renier de Ridder suggests Sean Strickland's latest victory provides incomplete preparation for Khamzat's multifaceted threat, primarily because Anthony Hernandez failed to deliver the wrestling intensity and grappling pressure that Khamzat will inevitably bring to their encounter. De Ridder notes their previous fight remained predominantly vertical and along cage walls, lacking explosive takedown sequences and ground transitions that could genuinely test Strickland's defensive capabilities against someone like Khamzat. The critical factor involves understanding how manageable challenges against certain fighting approaches can become overwhelming problems when opponents continuously attack with level changes and varied entries.
And do you believe he would have much of a shot against Khamzat after this performance?
We didn't see too much because Fluffy just forgot to shoot, so...
He tried to get him up against the fence. He tried to do something, I guess.
Yeah, but he never really, like, the way Khamzat shoots on his knees, like explosive, he never did that. And, you know, he has it. He does have those takedowns as well. So I think that was a tactical error on it.
Eric Nikic approaches the Khamzat Chimaev challenge as a complex puzzle, requiring systematic solutions rather than simple survival tactics or reactive responses. Intelligence becomes paramount from the opening exchange, demanding fighters maintain vertical positioning, utilize proper framing techniques instead of immediately seeking underhooks, and avoid prolonged clinch engagements where Khamzat thrives. Once clinch situations develop, the entire fight dynamics shift dramatically to favor Chimaev's strengths. Ground fighting requires understanding pressure sources and maintaining prepared responses, because against elite grapplers like Khamzat, reactive thinking proves insufficient, and fighters must anticipate moves constantly.
Someone like Khamzat potentially covering you guys for a whole round like that.
Yeah, it's a great question, bro. I really think you have to break it down systematically. You have to do things from the feet. You have to do things in a certain way to try to negate the fit in. And, you know, not to get too much in the game plan, but just you can't dig for underhooks immediately. You have to work off of frames. If you get an underhook, that a lot of times what happens is there's going to be an over-under. So that means you're attached, right? So how do you break attachments? And then on the ground, what routes does Khamzat favor on the grounds? What are some of our counters to that? So, you know,
Colby Covington dismisses Sean Strickland's chances against Khamzat Chimaev due to what he considers insurmountable disparities in grappling proficiency and technical skill levels. Covington anticipates Khamzat will completely avoid striking exchanges, immediately pursuing wrestling-heavy approaches where he can dominate positioning, secure takedowns, and apply relentless pressure throughout entire rounds. This scenario mirrors previous sparring sessions in Covington's experience, characterized by one-sided domination with Khamzat controlling every aspect of competition while Strickland remains trapped in defensive mode, unable to establish offensive rhythm or meaningful momentum.
Are you giving him a chance here against Khamzat? Like, we saw some pretty good wrestling takedown defense against Hernandez.
No, I'm not giving him a chance. You know, Hernandez and Khamzat are completely different levels of grapplers and the way they approach their strategy. So I think Khamzat's going to take him down and submit him. You know, obviously, you know, Shmo went and watched them spar back at Extreme Couture a couple years ago, and he pretty much said like it wasn't competitive. Khamzat was just taking him down and submitting him. So I expect that same game plan. He's not going to be stupid and strike with Sean, you know, and make it a kickboxing fight. He's just going to make it straight grappling. And, you know, I think he's going to put Strickland in some really bad positions and either submit him.
Kaya Borraleo identifies striking dynamics as Sean Strickland's primary pathway to competitive success against Khamzat Chimaev, explaining how Khamzat's wrestling threats typically force opponents into overcommitted punching patterns that create takedown opportunities. Strickland's methodical approach differs significantly, emphasizing precise touch jabs and calculated timing over power shots and extended combinations that leave fighters vulnerable. This controlled striking philosophy could complicate Khamzat's typical entries and disrupt the frenetic pace where he usually establishes dominance, potentially keeping rounds competitive on the feet.
Yeah, I think the striking is good for Strickland because a wrestler, you know, a guy like Khamzat needs you to put power in your punches, so you overextend and then he's on your legs to take you down, you know. But I think this is not the Strickland style. Strickland likes to touch with a lot of jabs, and even his right hand, he doesn't overstand. He doesn't put too much power on it because he knows these 4 ounces gloves is just a matter of the way you touch, the time that you touch, and how much you touch. You're gonna make the guy feel it, you know what I mean? So I think stylistically, the striking plays very good for Strickland because of this.
Borraleo ultimately favors Khamzat Chimaev, while acknowledging Sean Strickland's upset potential, establishing approximately 60-40 odds supporting Khamzat based on comprehensive analysis of both fighters' capabilities. He maintains that mixed martial arts remains inherently unpredictable, yet gives Khamzat advantages based on superior performances against elite grappling competition throughout his career. Supporting evidence includes comparisons highlighting Khamzat's consistent wrestling control against high-level opponents, reinforcing expectations that he'll dictate fight flow and positioning more frequently than Strickland can establish his preferred striking range.
These reasons, you know.
Who are you going with, though, if you had to pick right now? Are you still going Khamzat, or do you think it's going to be the upset of Sean?
I don't know, brother. I need to be honest, I don't know. I think Khamzat is the favorite. That's all that I can say. I think he's the favorite. I would say 60-40 for Khamzat, you know. And
that's pretty close, 60-40.
Yeah, but I think everything can happen, you know. Like in his fight against TDP, I knew that Khamzat would dominate because I saw one of TDP fight against a guy that's named Joilton Peregrino. He's a guy from Brazil. He has good takedowns and all that, but if you see the fight, he took down Dricus so easily, and he maintained Dricus down so easily in the fight. Dricus managed to win this fight, but it was very close. And I knew that like a guy with a wrestling like Khamzat would dominate Dricus.
Expert analysis presents compelling arguments from multiple perspectives, making definitive predictions challenging but fascinating to explore. Khamzat's wrestling dominance and pressure systems deserve serious consideration, raising legitimate questions about Strickland's defensive capabilities under sustained grappling assault. However, Strickland's calculated striking approach and pace control could generate opportunities if he successfully avoids early overwhelming positions. Success might depend entirely on who establishes their preferred fighting style first and maintains it consistently. Early takedown success could spell disaster for Sean's chances, but maintaining distance and controlling striking exchanges might provide upset potential worth considering. My lean goes slightly toward Khamzat, though Strickland's adaptability and mental toughness make him genuinely dangerous. This should be closely contested competition regardless of outcome.